Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of the Ohio Guys here. I'm Christian Ocampo, and today I'm joined by another actor from the indie scene. We have today Shakyra Dunn. How are you doing, Shakyra?
Hello. How's everything?
Good. All is great. Glad to finally have you here. I've been excited to have you on for an interview for a while now, since you've been following the Ohio Guys for almost quite a while now. Hard to believe it's really October as we record this interview.
Oh yeah, the month's been going by fast. This whole year's been going pretty fast, actually.
Yeah, it definitely has. So much has happened for everyone out there, both in the acting world and those outside of it. And definitely, I've been appreciative of your support for so many months, for so long. So definitely, I'm very happy to finally make this interview happen.
Happy to be here.
Yeah, I'm glad you are. So to kind of kick us off in the direction, why don't you tell us what is it like working in the indie scene today?
Oh, presently in the indie scene, it's chaotic just because there's a lot of mixed bags with it. There's a lot of drama, there's a lot of fun supports. I try to stay along the lines of the fun support, honestly, just because why break someone down, honestly? Why not just help other people? It's a it's a good community, but it's definitely got its flaws to it, just like anything else.
Right. Yeah, just the indie scene to me, I always feel like it's supposed to be like more of the foundation of most people's careers. It's supposed to be more of a way to make as many mistakes if possible, learn from those mistakes, just do what you can, learn what works for you, learn what your strengths and weaknesses are when shuffling through the indie scene. So, as you know, from my posts, from my thoughts in with actors trying to find their footing in the indie scene, I'm pretty sure you can tell that there's so many actors out there just trying to find their, I guess, find their way in just navigating through so much projects that are indie titles, or just trying to get experience in the indie scene.
Yeah, I definitely would say that the indie community is definitely a good place to actually start building your foundations, really, especially if you find it in the right people.
Yeah, definitely. And I can see like how much growth has been happening both in the developer side with indie actors getting to get more work and just in a way branch out in whatever titles come their way. I've been a fan in so many new titles these past few years. I'm just amazed on how much creativity these creators are putting out nowadays, whether it be visual novels, whether it be indie games, or just like indie films, whatever that, again, is a stepping stone to branch out to higher titles and stuff outside the indie scene. Definitely a lot of actors are learning from these experiences on what works and what doesn't work when it comes to growing oneself and making a name for themselves, both in the indie scene and hopefully transitioning into the more professional aspect of the acting scene out there.
That's very well said, actually.
Thank you. I just have so much passion, so much love and admiration for it. It's it's definitely a great spot, as you say, for people to learn. And yes, it can be very shaky because the indie scene, because of its name, you kind of like on your own in certain aspects. People who are developers or those that are creating things that need actors to play certain roles, I guess different fields of the indie scene, it can be very daunting just trying to, again, make a name for yourself, trying to like at least make a living, because nothing is always guaranteed in the indie scene because people want to transition out of the indie scene and get into more of a professional domain, whether it be hopefully getting into California for on-camera work or professional voiceover work, or just hopefully be in a guild or be in some sort of a safe net, so that way he or she, they or them, are able to live as actors going forward as they continue building up their careers.
Yeah, and it's really a hard niche to even get into just because, like you said, it's not always that stable. It honestly, I don't even make a whole lot from it myself. I just kind of go with the flow at this point.
Yeah. And again, the indie scene, not to say that it's the worst places to start off from, but it is a spot where one can at least try to establish themselves, get their feet wet in there. Hopefully, if it works out for them, they can continue getting more stuff. Otherwise, the biggest challenge usually is just trying to at least make a living being a full-time actor, or at least even being a part-time actor is really hard because those out there are probably balancing some real life job out there, whether it be working either at a coffee shop, whether it be a store, or they have some job that guarantees them their pay. But here in the indie scene, just a way to at least build the resume, at least build the experience to hopefully one day become a professional full-time actor.
I can't help but feel called out just because I am an actor with a day job working in retail. And it's torturous, but it pays the bills, and sometimes you got to do what you got to do, honestly. No shame in it at all.
Hey, there have been professional actors who started way at the bottom. We could talk about Steve Bloom, the king of anime, the man who's done so many voices over the year. He started out as a starving artist, him trying to start a band with his friends, but eventually he was able to discover voiceover, learn how to play characters, and eventually become the man who gets in the world records of one of the most voices done behind the booth. So,
Mhm.
it can take you different directions when stuff like this comes your way, and any actor that can grab that opportunity can eventually become someone as big as a Steve Bloom.
Oh boy, to be Steve Bloom, that's a dream in itself. Yeah, we need more of the Steve Blooms and Tara Strongs, please.
Yeah, probably they're out there right now, and hopefully, if they're listening to this interview, they can definitely, see themselves become the next Steve Bloom or Tara Strong, and just understand that, hey, you may not get the 100 roles right now this year, but eventually, if you start working towards that, make it a goal in life, then definitely you can accumulate small roles here and there, and then eventually you will become the voice that everyone wants to hear, the voice that every director would love to bring into the booth. So yeah, for any actors out there starting out, getting into year one, or they're in their fifth year, so on and so forth, definitely you guys will get there one day. Just continue the grind, continue the good work, and eventually you'll be there among as with some of the top greatest actors out there.
Yeah, just have a little bit of confidence. Just find yourself with the right people as well. It all is just a huge stepping stone, really. It'll take a lot of time, it'll take a lot of patience, a lot of persistence, but eventually.
Dedication, hard work, just good timing, just a good being surrounded by great people that support you, that want to work with you again for future titles. A great way to eventually get into that next step forward. And yeah, and definitely might become the next Steve Bloom or whoever else might have so much of a huge resume. There's others besides Steve Bloom, like a Troy Baker or like a D. Bradley Baker, so on and so forth. So many names I can just drop right here. So
Matt Mercer, Laura Bailey, or you could be like Sam Riegel, who does voice work and a lot of directing.
Oh, tons of other good names you just threw right there. So yeah, uh, I'm glad we can touch upon that with voiceover work and talk about some great actors. So to come back and focus with you, why don't you tell us what is your favorite project you have worked on?
That I can speak of, honestly. Latest one definitely has been Wolfskin's Curse, and I played Isley in that. It was fairly brief. I was only in like the first two actual parts of the game, but oh my gosh, I already adore her so much. She's just so sweet and naive. She's a mage type. She looks a lot like me, which is funny enough too.
Yeah, I think I remember seeing it drop like a while back. You know, you've definitely been working as much as you can, trying to pump out as much of the good work as usual. So that's one of the games I'm hoping to sit down and play myself and hopefully get a chance to live stream it here on the Ohio Guys channel.
Yeah, if you got a couple of hours in the day, I'd highly recommend it. It's such a good story.
I'm someone that, and again, just my love for visual novels, I always look for good stories, just visuals that can just captivate my eyes, and just the little things that come together to make these stories that make me want to get in depth into detail with what it's trying to illustrate to the audience.
Yeah, I definitely can work with that, honestly. I actually write a lot on the side as well. I kind of balance between both. So I'm always huge on character development anyway, so seeing good stories and good concepts, I immediately get one over. Like it doesn't take much with me, sadly.
Definitely, I'm glad you are someone that not just an actor that can be part of good stories, but you're someone that understands the intricacies of what makes a story good and what components and elements that come together to make it a good story. Because not everyone can be a Shakespeare, but if someone learns and takes in what Shakespeare wrote, then they can understand like why Shakespeare's work is good work, why his stories are amazing because of the way they're built. So that's always something for people that are into the arts, that are into writing and just making good stories, can use that as a way to further brush up on their own writing skills or their own creativity and learning on how to make a good story.
Yeah, and I definitely was told a lot that a lot of good actors do actually read because it helps you to really get intricate with your actual character development as well. It helps you actually really understand a character a lot better just to read certain books. Like you could read Shakespeare, you could sit back and read fantasy novels. As long as you immerse yourself, you kind of develop from that as well.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with that statement. You know, as for those out there that have favorite authors, book writers, once you start to learn their style of writing, the way they put things together, then it kind of almost becomes a way of second nature. We start to identify on why their works are amazing, why the writing and the story all make sense when put together.
Exactly.
All right. Now I'm glad we can devil upon good writing, learning about Shakespeare and other amazing writers. So to make another transition and getting more into your work, why don't you tell us what was it like working on the Shadow Whisperer?
It was actually one of my first projects that I ever got paid for. Me and one of my good friend Matt actually is the one that brought me onto it originally. He he like we like to talk about the story of how it actually happened too because he sort of tricked me to do it in a sense. He put out a casting call for one character he created and he was like, "Hey, who wants to do this?" And I'm like, "Hey, can I do it?" And he's like, "I was hoping you would." And we like to joke about it a lot these days. It's such a funny story. But yeah, it became my first major paid role as well, so good stepping stones at least. Everyone starts somewhere.
That's a good story. Just hearing about that. This was kind of your first paying role, and again, just coming back to what we talked about with the indie scene, where sometimes in the indie scene you might get some pay, may not be a lot of pay, or in some cases you may not get paid because it is indie. It is a way to just start off getting some sort of role, even if it's not paid, but at least it's a role that you can put in your belt. So I'm glad that or you enjoyed the way you got into the Shadow Whisperer with your friend and just getting that kind of experience from here on out.
Mhm. Yeah, and it's funny because a lot of my roles nowadays are just roles for the resume, and it's so important to actually have those as well because you have to have fun with as many roles as you can, honestly. There are going to be some bad roles that you have to do just for money. There are going to be roles that you really enjoy, and sometimes they are unpaid roles. Make the most of everything you can, honestly, especially when you're first starting out. That kind of was just my motion of going forward.
Now, understandable. And like I said, they're just for you as a actor, still trying to navigate yourself in the scene and at least having some friends who can throw some work your way, get you started in the right path. So you have a good friend like that to have have you gotten this role, even if it's in a funny way with a good story now that you can tell people about it.
I also have a bit of a contrast to it because when you do actually go for certain parts, if you kind of reach out for unpaid roles or paid roles, be wary of the actual directors or projects and whatnot. Do a little bit of research before you dive in because it's very easy for people to try and just sweep you up just because you're looking. I've had it happen a few times myself, and I try to educate people as well, like what to look for, what to expect. Don't let people down talk you as well. Don't do it. I speed talk. But yeah, that's important. Pay attention.
Yeah, no, I think even same thing with in the professional realm, you still want to look at who's involved, what names are attached to the certain projects, because worst thing for a actor to do is end up working for free because no one wants to work for free. Rather, if it's not acting, no one wants to put in hours of work and not be paid for because we as humans, we need to eat, we need to pay bills, and there's some things that we need to buy. So we can't always be doing free work.
Yeah, never settle for just completely all free work, especially if you are actually developing yourself. Like if you got a demo, if you feel like you're getting adequate work, know your worth.
Yeah, that's always a good phrase, know your worth. All right. So another type got to work on, and this one I got to experience myself from a YouTuber who was doing this play on this visual novel. Why don't you tell us what was it like working on? Since when did I have a combat butler?
Oh, Noah. Noah was actually my first leading role and funny enough titular character role. I adore him. I adore him so much. He That's a very special role to me, honestly, just because it was one of my first visual novel roles. It was such a good story and the cast was just amazing. I loved interacting with everyone. Funny enough, I was the only one to screw up Annalise's name because I didn't think to ask, like, would it be Annalise or Annalise? And now it's like, now I have to approach that every time I do a visual novel now. Like, how do you pronounce this name? I love Noah, though. It was such a great experience.
Yeah, as soon as I got into the first chapter of it, it really gave me some throwbacks of past animes I've seen. The strongest one that it gave me was Black Butler vibes to it. So just because of Noah, the way he's dressed, and the way he fights, and just a bit of presence like that's very similar to Sebastian Maceda's, but like more on the downside, very low key. If that makes sense, if I'm making a comparison, any justice.
That's actually a very good comparison. Another one I thought of when I actually started thinking into how I'm going to approach Noah, Hayate the Combat Butler. That's such an underrated show, and I was so excited when I actually got that role just because I'm like, I get to be like Hayate, and I'm protecting a princess type. Oh yes, absolutely.
Yeah, even even the titles, the combat butler, just thrown in there. I thought it was like I thought it was like maybe like an homage to Hayate because again, Hayate, the combat butler, and then when did I have a combat butler? Just so similar in the way the title's written.
Yeah, it was so on the nose. I just loved it.
Yeah, and then of course I just gotta mention its intro, so very anime and so very. I wouldn't say this like it definitely was an homage to its European influence, to that Victorian style that was going for, and just the way it was doing its elaborate sequence of frames when it was doing its opening. So it really, really felt like you're about to watch an anime rather than a visual novel. So
Yeah, the opening was phenomenal. I loved watching that. I didn't expect it either, which was the funnier part. I'm just like, wait, there's an intro? Oh, this is such a good song.
yeah,
Like
no,
even now, I just find myself thinking about the song.
yes, same here. I enjoyed it. Like just throwbacks, the way it kind of tipped its hat to past animes that I really felt like this title was deeply influenced and that had its roots embedded in some of those old animes that came before uh, Combat Butler. So
Yeah,
yeah,
not to mention there's also just there was so much that actually went into the thought of the actual plot line. I'm hoping that there's going to be a prequel story still. I'm waiting for that. Kokoro, make it happen.
definitely like the way it looks, the way it's written. There's so many ways you can kind of branch out, make chapters, maybe some spin-offs. I think the creators behind it, they're very good. Like it's hard to tell that in a way for the longest time, me being a fan of visual novels, I was thought about why can't we get more visual novels dubbed into English? And I was thinking of it backwards, like why can't Americans just make their own visual novels and then still have English dialogue into it?
Yeah, I especially love that they're doing a lot more visual novels that have full voice acting because it wasn't really thought of like the past 5 to 10 years ago. Honestly, I only saw like partial voice acting, so to actually get chances to really do full voice work is just amazing. More of those, please.
Yeah, definitely. And hopefully, if it's not just the creator behind Combat Butler, any future developers who want to make visual novels, I hope they will continue on making sure that we get English dialogue. I want to say English dub because it can't be dubbed if it's made here in the States. So I always appreciate hearing my visual novel rather than me always having to read my visual novel.
Exactly. It's just so nice to actually hear your own work written and spoken out loud too. It's a sense of comfort.
Yeah, definitely. It's just there's you just get more. You just feel more of the personalities from these characters. You get to feel the gravitas when these characters speak, whether it be with accents, without accents, but just hearing the visual novels just speak in English words is very refreshing, and it's easier to digest on what's happening in these stories and in these conflicts. So that's something that I always enjoy and what I was aimed to take in whenever these visual novels happen to come my way.
Yeah, I really hope it keeps up too, honestly. It's, again, like I said, it's a comfort to actually hear it all.
Yeah, I that I can second that, and hopefully we get more down in the future. All right. And now for another title you worked on, why don't you tell us what was it like working on Angelic Waves?
So I've actually, it's a funny story with that one actually. Getting Royal Gold was somewhat of an accident. It actually started off with me originally auditioning for a different project by Bus Arrow Studios, The Adventures of Sky the Slime Maid, which I also voiced Sky in. I auditioned for that role maybe like before I even got cast for Noah. And I was surprised to actually get cast as Sky because I didn't get cast for things like back then. And it was a bit of a competition in a sense, so even better. And then eventually that led to me getting asked, like, hey, do you want to try and audition privately for Royal Gold? And I'm like, really? And I'm like, oh, sure, why not? Lo and behold, he's like, oh my God, you did it perfectly. And I'm like, really? And then from there, it just led to bigger things. Me actually getting to announce Royal Gold maybe like, I'd say about 6 months after I actually got cast for her. And then just seeing the entire cast list just unfold after that is just surreal. I'm like, oh God, I'm the new kid among all these big names. I have to do something to stand out.
And I can kind of feel what you're feeling when it comes to being surrounded by experienced people, actors that have been seasoned in this line work. So I'm glad that you can be part of a project like this. Just being surrounded by so many good names in it. So I'm hoping that as you still get into more work like this with more actors of this caliber, hopefully you become used to it, and hopefully that you just enjoy uh, getting this sort of collaboration or this mishmash of cast this being put together of this nature.
Yeah, honestly, it happened about over a year ago now, and finally the game's coming out like next week, which I'm thankful for finally. And it's like, since that whole debut actually happened, it's like now I'm actually getting among big names, and it's so surreal even now just thinking about it. Like, I work with my good friend Bell. He's amazing, and he's so wonderful. He's such a great soul, and it's amazing to even get to collaborate with him at any points. My friend Patrick Mealy as well. He's a great voice actor. He was actually the villain in Combat Butler. One of the only roles I've actually done with him. So I'm like, Patrick, we need to work together again, please. And
Ah,
then Nick Chang is really developing as well. He's a complete godsend in terms of screaming, and he's amazing. Like, how did I get among these people?
yeah, Patrick. I almost forgot he was in Combat Butler. I saw his name mentioned, and definitely he's got a great voice. Just playing a villain like that, he's he just has a good voice just to be perfect voice for a character like this. And yeah, Nick Chang, another good name out there. And hopefully down the road I can get interviews with those two sometime down the road. I'd like to hear their thoughts and their experiences with all these projects they have done.
I know they'd be up for it. I think it's just a matter of time as well, because that was my issue too, just time.
Yeah, I can always work around that. And I've if you've seen some of my past interviews or anyone listening to these interviews, some of those interviews with certain actors took me years, like sometimes 3 to 5 years, just
Oh
to
wow.
just to hunker down a time frame, because sometimes time is not always on our side, and we gotta be patient until the moons are able to, or the planets are able to align with themselves to make it all happen.
And that's at least a good thing, because some people just don't really consider, like, we have lives. Some of us work day jobs and are always tired, hence that's why it's in my bio. I'm literally always tired.
It always understandable. Again, when it comes to being an actor, just trying to balance out acting with real life stuff happening, I can understand, especially with the tired aspect. Like I always tip my hat to any actor out there that can somehow make the balance, able to wake up every day, getting as much acting gigs done, and then coming home, trying to relax, and then going to sleep, and then wake up the next day, repeat and rinse.
I'm still waiting for that moment where I can just wake up and just do acting and call it done. I'm hoping to fix that next year, hopefully. Please let me have that happen, universe, please.
And like I said, hopefully time will be on your side. And hey, I guess with more great creators out there building up the work, building up their studios or what have you, I'm hoping that they will all reach out to you as they grow and say, hey, that Shakyra Dunn, she's been doing some great work knocking out of the park. Let's book her.
Honestly, that's how I've gotten a couple of roles, honestly. The strength of your demo can actually be pretty helpful, I've noticed. I'm just like, oh, me? What? Like, what could you possibly want with me?
Good voice work, good acting, and great range of voices.
Well, thank you.
You're very welcome. All right. So another title you got worked on. Why don't you tell us what was it like working on Veiled Garden?
I wish I could actually do more about Veiled Garden, to be honest, because I love Nona as a character, really. She's one half of an amazing duo. She's so spunky, but at the same time, she's very grounded in terms of how she approaches things with her wife. It's pretty awesome, actually. I want to do more. I just need time.
So I was going to ask you, and again, me just still kind of picking up as much of the indie titles out there. Uh, I guess if you have the time to check it out, any certain experiences that you can kind of like share without getting to spoiler territory for us?
Well, so far, in terms of the story actually approaching, they've kind of been revamping it in a sense. Definitely still keeping the same characteristics. So far, we're about on, I believe, episode 4. And it's not a ton of with Nona and her wife as well at the moment. It's just a bit of a slow burn, really, to put it lightly.
So yeah, I'm glad that you just keep enjoying like all these amazing titles worked on, and always have like some love, some appreciation to the characters you play. Because I know with actors, certain characters will always be in their hearts, will always speak to them in certain ways. So I'm hoping the same could be said with you when you get these characters that you get to voice in.
Oh, definitely. I always try to make the most of every character I get. Like, never want to sweat the small stuff either. Like, even if you're just an extra down the line, tackle it the best you can. Because I've done a lot of extras in the past, and some I haven't even gotten to talk about yet. And extras are great.
Yeah, no, definitely for sure. And hopefully down the road, when these extras can be announced, you'll be able to tell us all on Twitter land what's new, what we the fans and audience can expect.
I'm still kind of waiting for the anime extras, though, so nothing on that yet, but eventually I'm hoping.
Yeah, definitely. All right. And to kind of make a U-turn, going back to one that you already mentioned before, Wolfskin's Curse. What was that working on that project?
It was one of the first visual novels I actually got direction for, which was really comforting. Like, Maxi Molina, amazing. So insanely helpful in terms of direction. Would literally sit you down and help you out with the dialogue if you need it as well. Like, easily one of the best experiences I've ever had with direction. And again, I love Isley so much, so there's that.
Yeah, this one really it's on my radar, and I forgot like there were some other amazing actors that were also announced when Wolfskin's Curse was announced. So I'm very still hoping to get around to checking it out and hopefully putting it on the YouTube channel sometime in the near future.
I'd love to see it.
Yeah, same here. I just so many titles out there, so much digging, and then just setting aside the time for me to unravel it. I'm This one again will be on my top 10.
Yay.
So yeah, just all these amazing stuff you've mentioned and your love for your characters and these titles. And to kind of put it all in the ball together, I got this funny question I always like to ask everyone.
Yes.
If you could be any character you have played in real life, who will you be? And you can mix and match.
Hmm. Honestly, now that I'm thinking about it, I have a bit of Isley's tendencies in terms of like, she always stays up late and does things. She likes to read a lot. I have a bit of Noah's tenacity as well. Um, I have Roya's love of books as well as in a sense her seriousness. Like the moment you get me in a bad mood, you're gonna feel it. Hmm. And I have a bit of Vivian from Reverse Recount. I have a little bit of her spunk to it as well. So it's a weird balance, but hey, it's me.
Yeah, so I guess you really have some emotional connections, certain aspects that you can connect to your characters. So in a way, there's a piece really given to them. So yeah, no, some great names you thrown out there.
Thank you.
So as we record this interview, is there anything coming out that you can talk about, or anything out there that you want to plug in at this time?
Uh, well, I have something big coming out that I'm not going to talk about because I could get in trouble if I talk about. It'll be sometime next month though, so eyes posted.
All right. And to conclude our interview here, is there any Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or any other social media for fans to contact you at?
Sure thing. I don't really use my Facebook all that often. It's literally just kind of a family at this rate and certain website areas. For my Twitter, it is at Shakyra Dunn, which is just my name, as easy as it can be. It's with a Y, not an I. For Instagram, it would be shakyradunn.author. What else do I use? I don't have a website yet. I have a YouTube. It's Seer of Words, and that's all I can think of off my head because I don't use social media as enough as I used to.
All right. Yeah. Some platforms people can find you, can message you at.
I hope I
So
didn't say that too fast.
you're fine. And I can always post some social media accounts if need be on the description box.
Yay.
All right. Well, thank you, Shakyra, for finally making the time to meet me for this interview. I definitely appreciate you making the time for making this all happen.
Thank you for having me. I always love doing these.
Yeah, same here. I always enjoy hearing those from the indie scene join me and just type out their experiences and just go over certain characters and certain titles that they enjoy working on. So definitely, I appreciate all the time you've given me.
Happy to help.
And I want to give a thank you to our viewers out there for tuning in for this episode of the Ohio Guys. Thank you all, and I will be see you in the next video. Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.